Hey guys, and welcome to LITTLEBLACKBOOK91. We are having another live. Yes, I am sitting down with Shorty from Put a Ring on It. It is sure to be a great conversation tonight. I ask the audience to be respectful and to keep it cute in the chat. Appreciate you. Moderators, do what you do best. Mute them if they come out of pocket. Shorty, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I can't complain. How are you?
I'm alive and I'm well, girl. I'm alive and I'm well. I'm feeling good. I've eaten chicken today, so I'm good. You know what I mean?
Good. Chicken's always good.
Chicken's what's needed. All right, listen, surely here we don't like to jump straight into all the gossip, the tea, and what happened on the show. We like to get to know you. You know what I'm saying? Because you are a human being after all. You know what I'm saying? So we want to get to know you a bit better before we do and ask any questions. I gotta make sure you're actually human. You know that the background's looking real nice. You could be a hologram. You might not be real. You know what I'm saying? So
Uh-huh.
we're gonna ask some human verification questions. Okay, is that all
Okay.
right?
Yes, absolutely.
Beautiful. Beautiful stuff. All right, my first question is this. You're on an island. Your boat has broken. The sea is calm and the sun is beating on your skin. And the palm tree is swaying in the wind. And you look down and you see your iPod. It's flashing. Last 5% on your iPod. You can only play one last song. What song would that be?
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, if I'm in devastation, then I'm going to play something to lighten up the mood. So maybe Happy by Pharrell, something like that.
She said, not devastations. Pharrell's cool. Pharrell's cool. Happy's a nice song. I like that. I like that. All right, fantastic. My second question is this: favorite color?
My favorite color is white, even though that's not really a color, but that's actually my favorite color.
Oh, we can work on technicalities here. We're fine with that. Technicalities are good. I like that. White's good. Okay, cool. My third question goes like this: cereal or milk in the bowl first?
Cereal first and then the milk.
Okay. What kind of cereal would you normally have though?
Cinnamon Toast Crunch, definitely.
Okay. You know what? I'm warming up to you, short. You know, the cereal and toast times. Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you. Making good choices here. All right, cool, cool. I like that. I like that. I think it's safe to say, surely, that you are a human being. You've passed the human verification test. We've got the
Great.
major parts out of the way. So, surely, I'd like to ask this question to everybody: who is Shorty, and what is Shorty's story?
So, Shorty, well, we could start with my real name. A lot of
Oh,
people wanted to know my real name over the course of the show. So, my real name is Feleg, and it's
ooh.
of East African origination. I'm Eritrean. So, my name is Feleg, and it's pronounced like fell on your leg. It's actually pretty easy. A lot of people think it's complicated. And so I go by Shorty because of my height. I'm only 4'10", and so that was a name that was given to me like in high school. And then as I began to work in entertainment and like on the radio, Shorty Mac was my radio name, and that's pretty much what mostly everyone calls me unless they've known me for a long time. And people who insist on knowing my real name, when I tell them, they try to get it like once or twice, and then they're like, "I'll just call you Shorty." So, you know, so there it is. So like I said, I'm Eritrean born. I came here when I was a little girl with my parents.
Love that.
Always been really outgoing, always been really talkative, and I have a beautiful 19-year-old son. I grew up in
Oh, 19.
Minnesota.
You look
19.
good. You look
Thank you.
good.
He's in college and making me proud. And I grew up with both my parents in Minnesota with two brothers. I don't have any sisters.
Okay.
And I work in entertainment. I have a broadcasting communications background as far as like my
Wow.
school training goes. And I'm an outgoing person. I think I'm a good friend to my friends. I've got a circle of friends that I've had for most of my life, and I care about my community. I spend a lot of time like volunteering with youth. That's really big to me, working with young people and working in the
Mm,
schools. So that's a little bit of background about me.
I love that. I like that. Comprehensive. I love it. So, you said you grew up in Minnesota. My British accent will say Minnesota. For you, what was that like growing up then in Minnesota? How was that like? Talk to us a little bit about that. Your upbringing.
Growing up, it was interesting. there wasn't a huge minority population. I think Black people make up like maybe 4% of the state, something like that. So it wasn't really a diverse environment, I would say. But it's a good state, you know, economically it was stable and it was clean. And I grew up real humble with my parents. They owned a small town home that I shared a room with my brothers. And it was very cold. Minnesota's a cold weather state. Ultimately, the lack of diversity and I think the cold weather is what drove me out. So, but growing up in Minnesota was good. You know, like I said, I wanted to work in entertainment. That's not a hub for entertainment, but it also gave me a chance to like, you know, stand up and shine and not have like, you know, a whole lot of competition per se. You know, it's not like Hollywood or Atlanta or places where everybody's going there to do the same thing. But Minnesota was good. It helped make me who I am. So.
I love that. I love that. You know, it's interesting as well because growing up and stuff. You know, I grew up in London, and we grew up in a 2-bedroom flat. And you share a room with your brother. I shared a room with my brother and my sister as well for a little while before we moved out into a property. But it's like when you live together and you're in those kind of close quarters. Me and my brother were always fighting. Now, obviously, you have brothers, no sisters. But what was that like growing up with your brothers then? Because was you guys play fighting? Were you guys at each other's throats? Were you more kind of friendly? Like, what was that like growing up with brothers?
Very tomboyish. I'm the oldest, so they're younger than me. But it was
Okay.
just my whole life growing up was very male heavily influenced. You know,
Uh-huh.
I had my brothers, my dad, and my mom was my female influence, and a lot of times her work schedule kept her away. You know, like during evening hours. So it was really like me, my brothers, my boy cousins, and so it was very tomboyish, very you can't cry, suck it up, you know what I mean,
Mm.
kind of thing. Not a lot of femininity around me, but I try to gravitate towards having close girlfriends and stuff that would give me that sister feel and kind of give me that insight into what it is to be a woman in this man's world.
I mean, it's always interesting when you grow up around more male influences, around you, because you pick up some of our traits, as men as well. I mean, and you spoke about obviously, maybe not having as much time with your mum because obviously she was working, as well. When you look back at it now as well, like as a woman now, what would you have wished for if you were to describe what would you have wished for if you could describe what you would have wished for in terms of being a young girl? What would you have wished for more of?
Probably just like more openness and communication from my mom about being a girl and dating and what
Mm.
that looks like. I think it had to do with my African background too. You
Girl,
know, in our community, we're not all about like being intimate or
emotions.
showing affection in public, or
Trust me.
my parents weren't I love you. We didn't really hear them say that they loved each other. We never saw them kiss or anything like that. And so when it came to dating, I kind of was like on my own to just get out here and figure it out. And then because of that conservative background too, it's like we don't want to hear anything about a boyfriend. Don't even talk to us about it. When you have a man who you're ready to get married to,
Then come.
then come. But up until then, there wasn't that, this is what you should do as a woman, and this is what you should expect, or this is how I just wish I would have had a little bit more guidance into entering into like, the dating world and what that looks like, what to expect, and how to deal with it.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm not gonna lie to you. The African thing is hard, man. Because as a Ghanaian born West African, yeah, parents don't be doing all that warm fuzzy stuff, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, my dad was he was there, he was present, he was good. I'm not saying he wasn't, but I'm saying I would have, if I look back on it, what I always wish for is more of the emotional aspect. You know what I mean? Like to
Mhm.
help communicate that, because I think sometimes I find myself being a little bit, if you want to talk about attachment styles, avoidant and dismissive, because that's how he also dealt with it. He never had a dad, so I think he was trying to learn on a job as well, and I think I picked up some traits from him as well. So I know that as African parents, the three things they love telling you is you got food in your belly, you got
Yeah,
clothes on your back, and you got a
yeah,
roof over your head. I don't want
right.
to hear no complaints.
Exactly. And that's how they pointed it to me too. Like I ran away from home one time and they didn't understand why. And I was like, you don't love me. And my dad was like,
Yeah,
why would you say that? I said, well, you never tell me. And he said exactly that. He said, we feed you. The lights are always on. The phone is always on. We take you everywhere you need to go. You have clothes on. Like, this is the display of love. So to me, early on, the display of love was like, we're taking care of you. We're handling business. And that means we love you. So all of this saying that we love you, let that go.
Yeah, they don't do that. We actually managed to run. Listen, we all thought about running away. I thought about it. I did. I got to the door and I said, I don't know if I can do this. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm also firstborn as well. So I was like, I don't know if I can actually, can I do this? I don't know if I can do it. Like, you know what I mean? But for you, obviously, like you said, I mean, that's a really big thing, that wanting that love, I think, for my parents, and myself also too. I understand where you're coming from. So wait, what made you actually follow through? Because most of us don't follow through. We get to the part where we get to the door, we ain't follow through. So you obviously got some balls. What made you follow through?
I had a friend who had a young mom, and she was like, they don't love you. Come over here. Now, in hindsight, as an adult looking back on it, I feel like it was really immature. She probably shouldn't have let me come over there, but she did call my parents and let them know, like, hey, your daughter is unhappy and she is over here. So she kind of arranged like a mediation between me and my parents, and then they convinced me that they loved me. Within about 24 hours, I went back home. So
it gets like that. Listen, at least you followed through. Some of us couldn't do it, man. We tried. We tried, but then we started thinking about our bellies and stuff. So you was good. You resilient like that. Do you know what I mean? So okay, so we saw your mom also on the show as well, and you guys looked very, very close. Well, what would you say is one thing that you learned from your mom that you've never forgotten?
To not go against my gut intuition because of other people's experiences or what statistics look like. She's always been in the mind frame of to tell me to listen to my gut and trust myself. And so for me, that wasn't always the case. It's like, well, I feel like this, but I could be wrong. I want to explore. I want to see, even if it feels bad, just because it turned out bad for this person over here doesn't mean it would turn out bad for me. I might have a different outcome, but after time, I realized that what she was saying, was true. And she wasn't telling me what to do. She was just telling me to listen to myself and go with it 100%. So I think that that's, ultimately some really great advice that she's given me.
Love that. So obviously you spent more time with your brothers, and I guess spent a bit more time with your father as well. Well, tell us a little bit more about your relationship with your father, and how was that like then?
My relationship with my father, first of all, my father passed away when I was like 18 years old.
Sorry to hear that.
But him and my mother were married up until then. And my relationship with him was not the typical not the typical father, daughter relationship. We typically think of that relationship of the girl being the princess and, having her daddy wrapped around her finger. But again, this is like more of a stern African household. And I was the firstborn. So it wasn't like, oh, you're a girl, I'm going to treat you so delicately. It was like, you're my firstborn, and my other two are going to look up to you. So this responsibility is on you. Also, I had a real strong personality from the beginning. I met my dad for the first time when I was 3 because of war kept us apart. Wow. So when I met him, I was already full blown speaking. I was aware of who he was, but I didn't know that it was him. And so early on, he saw like, oh, this girl's got an outgoing personality. I would go with anyone, a stranger on the street. They'd be like, do you want to come with me? I'd be like, yes, let's go. So right away, my parents were like, well, we've got to keep a close eye on her. We've got to, really hold her, because she'll go with anyone. She'll believe anything. She's, a bit much from a young age. And so they carried on throughout my, childhood and adolescence, just being real strict on me, feeling like I could run into trouble at any time because I was just so, brave, and not brave necessarily, but just I'm
willing to try new things.
Risk it. Yeah. I was all about risks. And so because of that, it was like real strict. And so it wasn't the typical, daddy princess thing. It was like, no, we came to America for to do better. So
you're gonna be our first. You about to pave the way for the rest of them. So you're gonna be on point.
Yeah, and not just for that, for the whole community. My dad was like a big leader in the community, so he's like, all the other kids are looking up to you too. So it's like, Oh, okay.
Was that? Do you feel like? Do you feel that was like pressure for you then, knowing that you're firstborn, like you said, you are firstborn, which is normally that's you have pressure on that, but the firstborn young lady, and then having like you said, the community having to also have that kind of burden on your shoulder. Did you feel that pressure, or was it just nothing? You didn't really pay attention to it. What was it like for you?
It was pressure. It was. I was
Mm.
just trying my best to always live up to it and make them proud. So
Mm. Was that tough to deal with for you?
it was tough. Luckily, in my older years, my mom kind of let that guard down and let me know and assured me like, no, we're proud of you. Like
Mm.
relax. So we all want that validation.
Mm. No, that's like honestly that that's the one that touches my heart right there. Do you know what I mean? Because I think grew up in an African household is tough because like sometimes they be saying that you never know if they're proud of you. You know what I mean? If you do something, it's almost as if you have to become Beyonce or Jay-Z before they're gonna say that's
Mhm.
my son, that's my daughter. And I think that in itself is it can inspire you to do great things, but it leaves that little bit of that gap, that little bit of a hole in you. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes where, like I said, you're looking for that validation. And I remember I had a conversation with my dad a few months ago, well, about a year ago, and I said to him, "No, Dad, I'm doing YouTube full time. Like, I'm slapping it, I'm killing it." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he said, "All right, cool." I said, "All right, cool."
No
No, I
debate.
text him back. I text him back some free. I said, "All right, cool. Do you know what I'm doing?" Like, and it was so you don't realize when you get older, you kind of realize that it is pain. It does pain you. It did pain you. Do you know what I mean? And then you become really super independent, as well. So I don't know if that's the same case for you. Would you describe maybe how you've become a bit more independent and kind of doing your own kind of thing as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Mm.
Yeah, my parents like always taught me nobody's gonna hand you anything. You got to get out and work really hard for it. And I think I adapted that formula for a long time. But the older that I get as a woman and living in America, I'm like, no, wait a minute. I don't have to do that. In America, there's options. Like back home, my parents wouldn't necessarily even say, you need to go get an education. You need to get this kind of job because I'm going to have a husband. He's going to take care of me. So the focus is going to be more centered around on how I can take care of him so that he can take care of us. But living in
Mm.
America, it's every man, every woman for themselves. You're going to achieve as much as you work for, as much as you go out and get. And just because you're a woman doesn't mean you can't get out here and get it. And, just because you're a man doesn't mean, you necessarily have to do everything. So it's like now everything's up in the air and it's all about how you feel. So there is no necessary right or wrong when it comes to gender roles or providing or this or that. It's up to your personal self and personal standards. So I've been struggling with that over the last, I would say, maybe decade of just trying to find
Mm.
my place of what I feel like I'm supposed to bring to the table. What is okay to accept out of a man? At one point, I didn't think a man had to do anything for me until I was probably 30 years old. And it took
What?
for a man to say to me, no, like if a man loves you, he'll want to do everything for you. And I was like, really? That wasn't, necessarily an option. So here, as I've been trying to navigate that. What does that look like?
Mm.
And what I've realized is that it looks like whatever your standard is. And so I've been trying to maneuver that and stand strong in saying, hey, if this is my standard, this is my standard. Even if you're telling me I'm wrong, I'm outrageous, I'm expecting too much, I'm unreasonable, whatever it is, I'm just trying to navigate the waters between what's reasonable, what's not reasonable. And, because I went from one extreme of thinking a man didn't have to do anything to me to another extreme of like, no, you're supposed to do everything for me. And, I'm
It's
really
a
trying
lot
to figure out what does
look
it look like?
like. Do you know what? It's interesting. I don't know if you can maybe let us into your mind a little bit in terms of that culture clash, or if you want to call it that, in terms, like you said, coming from the Eritrea and then to the American culture and having to deal with the different kind of stereotypes or gender roles and things. Like, I don't know if you can take us into your mind a little bit in terms of how you've kind of navigated that. I know you said you're kind of finding yourself in that, but maybe you can kind of let us into your mind in terms of what you're kind of facing in terms of some of the different ideas you hold in your mind.
Yeah, like I was saying, it's just a lot of different conflicting formulas on how it's supposed to be done for me. in America, we have this Cinderella idea, right? This idea that a woman could be a handmaid, you know, in the back of the house wearing rags. Nobody knows her, but a prince could come and he could find her beautiful and love her and marry her. And she could go from being a handmaiden to being a princess, right? That's not an ideal that happens culturally where I'm from. Where I'm from, everybody kind of marries within their economic standard or their social class or whatever.
Yep.
So in my country, the thought of a handmaiden marrying a prince is just not real. It absolutely isn't. So the way I grew up was like, you expect what you bring, you know. So if you live in a village, then you need to expect that you're going to marry a man who lives in a village. If you live in the city, you're going to marry a boy who lives in the city, you know. If you are a working girl and you're a secretary, then maybe you'll, you know, marry the president of the bank. But you certainly don't try to jump out of your social class. You definitely, you don't. And so living here in America, I'm battling with the idea of, you know, there was this big controversy over my comment about Kenneth wanting to date in his league or out of his league. And I noticed that the audience was divided. There were some people who said, wow, she is really stuck up and full of herself. You know, how dare she say that she's on a higher level than someone else? But then there were other people who said, well, if you get a degree from DeVry University or Harvard University, those are different things. And there are levels to life, you know, and it's not just an economic thing. You know, if two people don't believe in the same religion or they don't believe in the same way of eating or lifestyle or whatever it is, that means that you're unequally yoked. And so I'm trying to, you know, figure out, like, how do I say that? How do I deliver that message without seeming like I'm trying to put another person down? And for me, it's conflicting, like what you said, because America's telling me that these people can be married. But culturally, my mom always told me, you know what I mean? Don't try to go for a rich man. You're not rich, you know? So it's like, what? Okay. So it's all conflicting. And really, ultimately, I'm just trying to figure out what makes me happy. I don't want to, you know, upset people. I don't want to ever seem like I'm better than anybody else. You know, people are not better than me. We're all human beings. We're all created equally. You know, we're all born on this earth, and then we make what we can make out of it. And that's that. But I do have to say that I still stand by the fact that there are like different levels to life and people are in different places. And I do think that things work out better when people are in the same spaces in life, generally, you know.
Okay. No, I agree. I mean, I'll come back to that comment, but I agree. I do actually agree with the circumference of what you're saying in general. It does work better when you're even.
In my experience.
Yeah, I agree that it does work better when you're evenly yoked. Insecurity can set in when we're in different levels. So I can agree with the general statement of that as well. So for you, okay, so then for you, then when you looked at, let's say, without obviously, it doesn't go into too much detail, but then what did you see in your parents' marriage? Was that the same way that you saw relationships when you were in America as well? Was your parents' marriage, or I know it's slightly different for you, but in the sense of timescales, but what you saw, was that considerably different in terms of your parents to what you saw outside navigating America? And if so, how for you?
It wasn't very different because we were in America. So in America, I came from a 2-parent working household. Both my parents worked outside of the household. Both my parents worked inside of the household. Now, had we been back home, that wouldn't have been the case. Had we been back home, my mother would have been at home and working. But because of the language barrier, you know, they came here as adults with no money, no education, not even speaking English. There was a big necessity for both people to work and both people to bring income into the household. And so that's what I saw, you know, pretty much partnership where one lacked, the other filled in. My mom's not a driver. She doesn't have a driver's license. She has no desire to ever drive a car. So Dad, he was a driver for all of us, you know. And as an adult, I see that was a huge responsibility. As a kid, it's like, oh, my mom does all the cooking, my dad drives everywhere. It didn't seem balanced. But now as an adult, once I'm in the house, I'm in the house. I don't want to drive anywhere. So the fact that he was driving everyone, a family of 5 people, where everyone needed to go, I see like what a huge contribution that was. So my parents' relationship was more of both people are working and they're, because of the circumstance of being here in this country.
Okay. I appreciate you sharing that. Let's talk a little bit about academics and that. You know what I mean? Because going through school, as an African kid myself, I actually went to Africa. I went to a school that was predominantly African, so to be honest, it wasn't too much trouble. But my formative years, when I was probably a little younger kid, I went through school and it was the British folk, and it was quite interesting trying to figure and navigate cultural differences, as well, trying to fit in. For you, obviously, obviously having 2 different cultures and existing in academical circles, going to school and stuff. What was that like for you? Like, describe a little bit in terms of your upbringing in school. Like, what was that like for you? Fun? Not fun? What was it like?
School was fun. School was fun. I was real social. I had a lot of friends. I did well. My parents made absolutely certain that academically I did well. I got a scholarship to college. The schools I went to were PWIs. They were predominantly white institutions. So again, there was a little bit of a lack of diversity. I would have, it's like wherever the black kids was like, okay, I want to be there. I want to be at the student black union. And so I was active in different groups. So school was cool for me. It was good for me.
Was that tough dealing with that though? Because obviously, race is a very big thing, especially in America. So was that tough growing up, especially your firstborn? I would class you as a black woman. And so now you're navigating school and stuff like that, where it's predominantly white. It must be quite a tough kind of thing to navigate because you're the firstborn as well. So
yeah, it was real tough, to be honest with you. Like I said, I'm from Minnesota, the home of George Floyd. So I saw a lot of racism. It was a different kind of racism than it is in the South. It's not blatant. It's very under the table. They have the saying, Minnesota nice, but it's more like, they might smile in your face, but behind the scenes, they're trying to keep you from getting into a managerial position. Black people were in less than managerial positions. I always said that when I moved to Atlanta. I was like, I went to Atlanta when I was 31 or 32, and my whole working life in Minnesota, I had always been interviewed and hired by somebody who was white. And also the people who did the firing were also white. We were always profiled by the police. It was something that was hard concept for my mom to grasp because she wasn't a driver. And so we would get pulled over all the time, and we would, tell her like, we're getting profiled. She just didn't believe it because she doesn't have that like foundational black understanding of the history of the country. And so she's like, no, if you turn your signal on and you follow the rules, you won't be pulled over. Until one day my brother got pulled over in front of her house, and she came outside and observed the whole thing. And she asked the officer, what made you pull him over? Because he didn't give him a ticket, nothing. And my mom said, what made you pull him over? And he said to her, the license plate was registered to somebody who doesn't have a driver's license. And she said, it's me. He's driving my car. I don't have a driver's license. And she said, well, what made you run the plate? And he said, I just ran it. I got behind him and I just ran it. We run things randomly. And it was that day that my mom understood that without him having done anything wrong, he decided he was going to follow him and pull him over and kind of talk to him and see what he had going on. And so it was a big thing. I think people always felt like I was over exaggerating it. I'm very expressive and vocal in how I feel. And so I think a lot of people felt like I was over exaggerating it. But once Jamar Clark was killed by the police with no justice, Philando Castile was killed by the police with no justice, the George Floyd thing erupted, a national spotlight came on the state of Minnesota. So then they got to see that Minnesota has the biggest equity gap between blacks and whites in the entire country, among being, top 5 for a lot of very negative things. So it was a tough upbringing, to say the least. And it definitely drove me to wanting to come to Georgia, wanting to be in Atlanta, and just wanting to be, in the South, where I blended in a little bit more. Like I
Mm.
mentioned earlier, I work in the schools, and when I got down here, the school populations were, a lot of them are, the population is, the demographic is largely Black. And I
Yeah.
remember doing a school one time, and about 4 white kids came and walked in the gym. And when I saw them, I said, I was like, oh my gosh, are they okay? And I felt endearment towards their experience of being a minority in this school.
Because
And I
you.
thought to myself, that was me, but
Mm.
how many people had that same kind of compassion that I felt for them, for us? I wonder, you know what I mean? Being in a
Mm.
university of 100,000 people and you got 1,000 Black students. So it was interesting.
Crazy. So obviously that's quite a difficult experience as well. Like I said, I mean, I love the fact that you could actually empathize with the other side as well, and seeing
Mhm.
the few young white kids as well. And so you obviously were involved in teaching. Is that would you say it's a passion, teaching? Is that a passion, or is that just something that you were doing at the time?
It was more mentoring. I wasn't actually a
Okay, mention.
licensed teacher, but I
Okay,
work with the school districts to do after school programs, and I also
love
host
that.
like big pep rallies here in Atlanta. I'll bring celebrities to perform at the pep rallies, surprise the kids, and just motivate them. If a school calls me and tells me that the students did well with their standardized tests, then I'll put together like an impromptu concert for them. More sort of that thing, and that's all. That's been a passion of mine since I was a kid. So.
I love that. I love that. So obviously, then you got into entertainment. When did the entertainment journey begin? And was that always a dream from when you were younger to go into entertainment, or was that something that came a little bit later on?
It was always since I was a child. I wanted to do more like news,
Oh,
television news, and more serious stuff.
okay.
But once I was in college, I just could not get an internship. Like I tried to get an internship at all of the network stations, and it was just very difficult. And so when the doors kept closing, I said, well, I'll just do my own thing. So I went up to the cable access station. I paid my $50. I got a membership with them. I started checking out cameras and equipment. I said, I'll just go do my own interviews. And one of the industries that first opened their door for me was the entertainment industry. If there was a concert going on in town, I would just show up at the concert venue early at sound check and try to run into managers or whoever and say, hey, I'm an independent journalist. I'm on cable access. Can I cover your event tonight? And they'd say, yeah. They'd give me a little pass. They'd let me come through. And so in doing that, I ended up interviewing so many like huge national celebrities, and simply just from asking. And so that's
Mm,
how the entertainment journey started, was that that industry was opening its door. They were giving me a voice, they were giving me a platform. Before I knew it, I was like touring with people and going all over the country, like doing interviews. And so I was doing kind of what you're doing, like on that
but on
side.
grander scale.
Yeah.
Mm.
Not so much on the talent side, but
Wow. Okay. So for you, would you say then, did you fall in love with entertainment at that point then? So like when you started, obviously, making it and you're starting to see it's progressing, was that then the passion, or was something
yeah.
else the passion?
No,
Hmm.
it was the passion. And from doing that, I ended up working in radio because a lot of the concerts that I was covering were promoted by the radio stations.
Okay.
So they were like, you're doing these great interviews and then you're putting them on cable access. They're like, no, you need to come and join the team. And so once I got into radio, it was completely different. There was no cameras. You didn't have to do your hair and makeup, and it didn't take lighting. It didn't take
Mm.
10 hours to set up. You just went in the booth and you turned on the mic and you talked. So, and then the involvement in the community, like it allowed me to be involved in the community deeply, where I didn't even have to come up with my own events. It was like we had events
Mm.
that we had. I could go volunteer and work with the community, and then listen to music all day. I love hip hop, R&B, so it's like all day I'm listening to music. I'm giving away free stuff. At night, I'm hosting parties that I would go to anyway, and I'm getting paid. So I was like, what's bad about this? So that's how I kind of
Mm.
made my transition from television to doing radio. It was great for me.
I love that, man. And because obviously entertainers, or being in the entertainment world or whatever, or if I say that, you know, when you hear people talk about their journeys, oftentimes almost as if some people stumble upon that kind of journey. When I say stumble, in the sense of like it just takes one opportunity, and then you kind of find yourself there doing what you kind of love. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so it sounds like that's what happened to you in a sense, if that's correct.
Yeah, I honestly think that that can happen with anything, not just entertainment. I feel like in life,
Mm,
if you have a goal, just start. Just start. Figure out what the direction is and just take one step. That one step will lead you to another step. It'll lead you to another step. And inevitably, you'll get to where you want. Because we know that it's not a destination, it's a journey. So just start. I feel like even if you're working in tech, whatever it is that you're doing, if you start, that's the momentum. That's the snowball. It'll keep going.
mm.
It'll work for you.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so talk to us a little bit then. Dating. What was that like then? Because dating is never an easy thing in this generation. But what was dating like for you? I mean, I had to ask this question. What was your first love like?
Oh, my first love.
Was it a
Well,
teenage love affair?
remember, I didn't really get to have boyfriends and stuff until
That's
I
true.
was grown. So I think probably my first boyfriend in college, like once I moved out and, we were allowed to spend time together.
Trying to
And
get.
so, you know, but he was very stern. Like he was like my dad. He wanted to tell me what to
Mm,
wear and what time to be, certain places. My mom, my girlfriends weren't real happy early on. They thought he was kind of controlling. I didn't see it though. I was just happy to be able to have a relationship, I think.
mm. Okay, cool. I mean, how long were you with him for?
A year. We were together for a year and then he graduated. We were in college together. He was ahead of me. So the first
Okay.
year he was a senior, I think I was a freshman. And so the next year after that, he graduated and went out to DC. We tried to do the long distance thing, but ultimately I got cheated on. That was the first
Oh,
time I learned that guys cheat and everything. So
first heartbreak will send you into the pits, man. How did you recover from that heartbreak? Because some of us were eating ice cream on the sofa. Some of us were, listening to certain music. I went to pray, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. But what about you? How did you recover? Because I was feeling sick. I ain't gonna lie to you. Whew.
I was hurt. I think I got over it by just deciding to stay naive. So I
Mm,
classified him as a lone wolf. I was like, that's him. He cheated. Most guys aren't like that. Like I just came up on
mm,
a bad apple. So I pretty much was just in denial. I was like, oh, he's a bad dude. He's rare.
mm.
I
Girl.
thought cheating was rare at the time. Can you believe it?
It'd be like that. Listen, I can't tell you what I thought was let me not say what I thought, but when I was younger, but yeah, I was naive as well because I didn't have a girlfriend until I was like 17, 18. So
Right.
yeah, parents weren't, yeah. So I know what you mean by the strict stuff. I wasn't even allowed out past like 9. I was
Right.
coming in early. Like, what's that? Do you know what I mean? Lights come on. Want to see you in the house. Okay. So
Exactly.
summertime was cool because I could get a bit extra time, but they wanted you in the house before then. So it does make you a little bit naive to the world. So
Mhm.
I do understand that as well. Okay, so first love, that was first love. Um, what was your next serious relationship for you? What was your next serious relationship, and what was that like for you?
This is gonna sound bad, but it was another dysfunctional relationship. It was
That's
my
cool.
son
This is
my
real.
son's my son's father,
Okay.
and he actually cheated on me while I was pregnant.
Oh,
And
dang.
so that one was a little more harsh for me. So at that point, I kind of was like, oh, if you can't respect me while I'm carrying your child, like, I've got to break it off. And so um, broke it off, and that just started like a long journey of how I became independent. I think once
Mm,
he cheated on me, and he kind of gave me the ultimatum of, you need to forgive me, we need to work this out as a family, or if we're gonna go our separate ways, then don't expect me to be around or involved, with the child. And so of course, I thought he was just hurt and giving me some kind of ultimatum.
mm,
Ultimately, I was like, he doesn't mean that, but he did mean it. And so I did, choose myself, and I raised my son as a single mom. And so that started the journey of me having to make sure that I, you know, had income and that, you know, my life became stable. And so it became all about providing for my son. And I think it ripped the naiveness completely off, you know,
Trust
where
me, a good heartbreak
before
will.
that I was still kind of like willing to be, you know, played with or to go through. It was like once I got, you know, left with a child, I was like, oh wow, like this is a huge consequence. And I also had to realize that I was at fault here too. Like that, you know, he wasn't somebody that in my mind, I was like, I want to marry or have a child with. But so then what am I doing? So it also started the journey of like accountability for myself, because I felt really guilty too, like that I had a child and then his father wasn't there for him. And I felt very responsible for that, in that, you know what I mean? I chose this, I created the situation. And so from that point forward, I think that's where I moved in the direction of starting to have more of expectations for guys. You know, I was like, hey, wait a minute. If I don't have the expectation, if I don't put my foot down, if I don't say what I need, or, you know, that I was like, these guys are going to do whatever. And I think that's when the real realization set in. And also when the whole, you know, I've got to focus on providing and having income. That's when that became very real to me. Before that, money was this and paying bills. Who cares, you know? But being a single mom changed all of that for me.
Okay. No, that's okay. That's. I appreciate you to share that as well. Okay, so then for you, then obviously, what do you feel like? Let's say this gentleman, the gentleman, sorry, the father of your child. Um, what made you drawn to him then? So what was drawing you in? Was he saucy? Did you have
Yeah.
the gift of the gab?
Yeah, it was very immature. I
Mm.
was like 19, about to be 20 at
That's
the
all
time.
right.
So it was like a very immature, like physical attraction. And, you know, again, being young and wanting like male attention, not, you know, really at that time, I just wasn't dating for the future, so to speak. You know, I was just like,
Enjoyment at 19. I understand.
yeah, we laughed, you know what I mean? We go out to eat, we hang out, you know, there was a physical attraction there. So it was just being immature on my part, not really understanding the consequences, you know, of your actions and what comes with relationships and intercourse and all those things.
Cool, man. I appreciate you sharing that. And so, obviously, after that, did you get into any other serious relationship after that? Before the Kenneth situation, did you get into any other serious relationship?
I did. I had two other relationships. One that was on and off relationship for about almost 4 years. At one point, we were almost engaged, and he passed away. Like he was who I would
Oh,
call like my soulmate, and he passed away suddenly one day from a heart attack. So it was
what?
yeah, very tragic. But yeah, that was probably like my closest relationship. I had a relationship here with a guy in Atlanta too. Since I've lived in Georgia, I had one relationship with a great guy that I'm still friends with. And what drew me to him was that he just was great with my son. Like he was a great guy to begin with. Anyway, I liked him. He was a hard worker, and he just prioritized, you know, my son. It was like, where's your son? You know, why aren't we going to do this for him? You know, if my son had a school event or something, I would mention it. He would show up. He'd be there. I'd be like, you came to watch a boring kids play? You know, he's like, yeah. So um, that definitely drew me to you know my Georgia relationship, because that was another aspect, you know, that was lacking. Just somebody who wanted to, you know, love on me, love on my child, and really, you know, accept us like that. So
Mm. Okay, wow. Okay, you hit us with the 1-2 combo there. I wasn't ready. I'm gonna dive in. So, okay, so obviously being with someone and then obviously they pass away. How did that affect you? Like, how did that affect you and going forward? How did that influence you and stuff?
it kind of, I want to say it made things tough, because you're comparing people to somebody who's not here anymore. You know,
Yeah,
they're not coming back, and they're their own person. We are all our own unique original person. There's not another you, there's not another me.
absolutely.
So but when people are here with us, you know, alive, you may compare one guy you date to another, you know, but
Of course.
it's not like this endless comparison that's coupled with hopelessness too of, well, I'm never going to find somebody like him again, you know, or not find that bond or that relationship.
Wow.
So,
Phew. So did it take you a little while to recover from that? Because that's quite a unexpected loss to have that. You know what I mean? Like, did it take you a while to recover?
yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? And I still have a lot of love for him. So I still think about him. And, you know, he was somebody that I had a friendship with before we got in a relationship. We were friends for a year before we got in a relationship. Um, and even when we broke up, we remained friends in my mind, thinking we would rekindle something one day, but we're not able to. Yeah.
Sorry to hear that, man. I appreciate you sharing that. Okay, and then the gentleman who obviously was, you know, hands-on, was involved in the kid's life. What happened there? 'Cause that sounds amazing. Even your eyes were shining light. It was like light was entering your eyes. So what happened there?
Infidelity happened.
Oh, God damn it. We were doing so well.
I think Kenneth was the only person who I didn't deal with that with, you know. And it wasn't infidelity, to be honest with you. It wasn't like full on infidelity. It wasn't like I
Emotional?
caught him. It was he had an ex girlfriend, you know, who he still was very much friends with, and then there was, you know, lies that were being told. You know, they were still maintaining like a very close friendship, and so ultimately for me, I didn't want to deal with that, you know, because it was turning me into this nasty, insecure person. And I was like, so we both just agreed that, you know, there was a lot of different other things that we didn't see eye to eye on too, you know, but we amicably broke up. And like I said, we're still friends to this day. He watches the show and he laughs at me and makes fun of the situations and stuff. So.
Okay. All right. I'm intrigued now, Shorty. I'm intrigued. You know, I've got the bit between my teeth now, and I'm wondering. All right, because I'm looking. You've given us some great information about what you've gone through, and it seems to. I mean, cheating is. My gender is a bit mad. I'm gonna lie to you. They cheat unprovoked. But obviously, in each of the instances, bar like you said, the Kenneth situation, there seems to be some level of infidelity that keeps on happening. So I'm going to ask you a question, bar Kenneth. When you look back at some of these relationships, did you see the red flags
With the other guys?
Yeah.
I would say yes, absolutely.
What made you ignore the red flags?
I wanted what I wanted. You know, I wanted what I wanted. If I'm having fun, you know, I'm gonna, in my mind, the good is gonna outweigh the bad, even if logically or in reality, the bad is outweighing it. You know, you want what you want, and so it takes to get, you know, beat on top of the head, you know, metaphorically speaking, sometimes for you to realize like I'm uncomfortable, this isn't good, you know. But yeah, I definitely I saw red flags.
Okay.
I think that's on me. You know, you call out the red flag and then they say, no, that's not real. That's just right now. This is what made me do that. That's not who I am, you know. And then you want to believe them, so you do.
Okay. No, I'm hearing you. I'm definitely hearing you. Definitely hearing you. Okay, cool. So, talk to us. Why did you go on put a ring on it? Because am I going too far ahead? Maybe am I going too fast? No. Yeah. Why did you choose to go on put a ring on it? You know, you met Kenneth. I'm gonna ask you in a second or two how you guys met, but why did you decide to go and put a ring on it?
So I thought Put a Ring on It was the perfect show for me and Kenneth to go on, which sounds crazy, right?
Okay.
A lot of people have been pointing out the title of the show. It's called Put a Ring on It. So it sounds initially like everybody's going on there to put a ring on it. But when I looked at the show, the layout, the format of it, and what it entailed, I saw much more than just putting a ring on it. This is a show for couples who are not on the same page about marriage, being that at least one of the people here doesn't want to get married, but one does, right? So for me, I was like, that's me and Kenneth. Kenneth wants to get married. I'm not so convinced of that. The show also allowed you to go on dates with other people in an attempt to say that, hey, maybe your situation isn't the best. Maybe you're ignoring red flags. Maybe you're forcing this. And maybe there's somebody out there for you that may actually be a better fit. And so for me, I definitely believe that there was somebody out there for me that was a better fit, but that was very difficult to convince Ken. Ken had already had it in his mind that I'm the one for him. And there was no convincing him otherwise. So I figured out that I felt like the format of the show was going to force him to go on dates with other women. And maybe in those dates that he could open up and see that maybe there could be a connection. Maybe you would be able to vibe with another woman more than me. And if nothing else, just open his mind to the idea of dating. And for me too, like I had been in this relationship for all these years. And, I wasn't in a space where how do I go meet somebody? It's like, if I tell him I want to break up and I want to see other people, it's, excuse my language, but well, I'm going to kill anybody who you try to see, try it. Like that was the conversation. So I said, this is a controlled environment where we can both go out with other people. There was the counseling aspect. I watched the other seasons. I saw Dr. Nicole. It appeared to me that she was offering great advice and, that the people were receptive to it. I had asked Kenneth to go to counseling with me, therapy with me for quite some time. He was of the mind frame that a perfect stranger cannot help our relationship. They don't know us. They can't tell us anything about our relationship. So he refused. I was going to therapy by myself individually, but I was never able to convince him to go with me. So for me, I was like the counseling aspect, maybe Dr. Nicole can look at our relationship and offer us some guidance, some help, even if that means we're together or not together. She could look at us as individuals, look at our relationship, give us some insight and feedback on that.
Of course.
Also, yeah. And then also the last aspect was that ultimately the show was about either putting a ring on it, either we're going to help you through counseling with these issues that you've got to get you to a destination, right?
Yep.
Getting engaged or married, or if you deem this is not the destination, then you're going to break up and you are going to go your separate
ways.
But ultimately, what you're not going to do is stay in this cycle that you are in. So for me, the show was for couples who were in a cycle and either wanted tools to lock it down or wanted to go through the other things to realize that, hey, maybe this isn't best for us. And so for me, I was like, These all they all sounded to me because I had been on my own trying to convince Kenneth that we were toxic, we don't need to be together, and that ultimately like we are not a good match. And it was impossible to really get him to grapple with that.
I mean, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I get why you decided to do that. It does make sense. I can't argue that as well. For you then, take me back because I need to understand how this relationship formed. We heard a little bit of this on the show. It sounds like you guys were at a particular concert, you locked eyes or something like that, and then da 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 da. So, but I want to get from your perspective, how did you and Kenneth come into being?
Great question. So, like we said on the show, we did meet at a concert that I was actually working at. Because I worked for the radio, so we were putting on like an annual concert. So I met him at the concert, we exchanged information, and at the time, he told me that he lived in Louisiana and he was getting ready to move to Georgia. And so I was like, okay, well, I said, here's my number. We started talking to each other over the phone. And so we were talking, FaceTiming, and throughout that time,
Wait. Before you go further, when you guys met, was it like was it mutual attraction straight away?
Yeah, I thought he was really cute. Like, absolutely.
Okay.
I was like, oh, he's cute. He's tall. He seemed really polite. Even the way that he approached me was not like, hey. You know what I mean? Like, he came slow and was like, hey, do you have a second? Can I talk to you? Yeah. He introduced himself to my friend. He just seemed quiet and shy and really sweet. And yeah, there was a physical attraction there. So I was like, I was single, and yeah, here's my number. Let's talk. So we started
Beautiful.
talking on the phone, and we started talking on the phone, and we started our relationship as long distance while he was in
Okay.
Louisiana and I was in Georgia.
Okay. What made you want to continue the relationship being long distance? Because I thought you might need cuddles and stuff like that. Long distance is a bit of a trek. So what made you want to
Yeah. So
continue it?
he told me he was getting ready to move to Georgia. I think we met in the month of June, and he told me that the lease where he was staying was up at the end of July, and that
Okay.
he was going to be moving to Georgia by September. So for me, I was like, we'll get to know each other on the phone, and then you'll move out here. I was
Beautiful.
under the understanding that he was going to move out here and get his own place, and then maybe we would continue the relationship from there. But for him, he was like, no, if I'm coming out there, we might as well stay together. We can save money. We can pay bills together and stuff. And for me, I had never lived with anyone before.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to like open up to the idea of that, you know.
Uh-huh. Wait. So at what point was this in the relationship that he started to, that he suggested you stay together? I'm just trying to get a timeline. At what month would you say that he decided to offer that suggestion?
The fourth month?
The fourth one.
Yeah.
The fourth one. Wow. Okay. And for you, when he suggested it, how did you feel when he suggested potentially living with you?
Like I said, I had never lived with anyone before. But again, like I was telling you, I was real focused on like my career and raising my son. So when I was dating, it was more of like, oh, we've got a good rapport. We'll date now. You're my boyfriend. It wasn't like calculated. So for me, when he said, well, I'm moving there anyway, I was under the understanding that he was a general contractor, that he had all these things going on. It was like, I'll come there and help you save money. So I was like, okay, well, I'm trying to get a business off the ground. And, maybe that's the best thing. I thought we had a great connection. He did come out and visit me a couple of times while we were, doing the long distance thing. And for me, I was like, let's try it. Let's try it.
Mm.
I felt like I might have a 2-income household now, which was different than what I had had. I was under the impression that he was an active father. He had a beautiful little girl who I adore, and from the long distance dynamic, it looked like he was active, with that. And for me, that's something that I find attractive, that I like, is like somebody who's an active dad and somebody who takes leadership to say, oh yeah, no, I'll move in with you. You know what I mean? I'll pay bills like you. I was like, okay, let's give it a try.
Okay, wait. So just if I remember correctly, did he suggest, or did you suggest, or did we both suggest the moving in?
So he suggested that he actually move in with me. I had brought up the conversation of being a single income household, and how I did everything by myself, and if I was married or if I did have a partner, the different things that I felt like I might be able to achieve or do or whatever. So he's like, well, if that's how you feel, like I'm that guy, you know what I mean? Like, look no further. So I was like, okay. And then also, by him being a contractor, he was telling me that he does renovations, he does flooring, he does all these things. And that was what I was actively trying to get into, was real estate. So I was like, okay,
Mm.
maybe this might be a power couple, in the making. And
Interesting.
so because he was also relocating, I was like, oh, what is, let's give it a try. I didn't know, in my mind, I was like, we'll try it. If it doesn't work, he'll move out, he'll get his own place. I did not know what was to come.
Okay, I'm hearing what you're saying. So he suggested it, but you also brought up the conversation. You're saying, so it's in a sense a mutual. Both of you kind of brought up your own points about the moving in, right?
Mhm.
So for you,
Yes.
the bonuses were two income household. means bills get paid. A little bit lightens your load. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I understand where you're going with it. Okay, lightens your load. It's a guy that you like as well. And obviously he was already trying to move to the city as well. Okay, and this is all happening within that conversation is happening within month 4, basically, as well, right?
Right. And at
Woo.
the time, I was actually living about an hour and 20 minutes outside of Atlanta. And so I think
Okay.
that was a big factor as well. So for him, it was like, well, I'm going to move to Atlanta, but you live an hour and 20 minutes away. So what am I going to do? I'm going to move to Atlanta, and then we're going to continue this long distance thing. You might as well have me move in with you, and I can help take this load off you. And I said, okay, that made, you know.
Do you not think? Did it not ring any alarms for you potentially that maybe he wants to move in so soon? Because if a girl told me after 4 months she want to move in with me, I would looking at. I would looking at. Oh, I was gonna say I would look at Shorty, but I know her name. I would have looked at old girl like, moving in. I mean, it's a little bit soon, isn't it? Love? Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? I don't know, like. But maybe I don't know if that's how you felt at the time. Maybe you know what I mean. I know you have practical reasons and emotional reasons, but I would have felt it a bit too soon. I don't know about for you.
Yeah, you know, for me, I was trying to like do the grown up thing, because for me, I never wanted to live with a man unless we were married. But now at the age that I'm in, it's like plenty of people live together. Plenty of people live together. You know, a lot of my friends have boyfriends. They live together. Like I said, if it doesn't work out, they break up, they go their separate ways. You know, for me, it wasn't a huge deal. He wasn't somebody from the beginning that struck me as being dangerous or harmful to me, to my child. I was like, you know, we really feel deeply about each other. And I hadn't had somebody else try to move in 2 months. I hadn't had somebody else try to move in after 1 year. You know, it was a first for me. It was a first conversation. It was a first even being open to it. And I was just trying to, in my mind, be on my grown woman. You know, how long am I going to avoid, you know, living with a guy? How long am I going to avoid trying to have this grown up dynamic of this relationship of, okay, we will share responsibilities. Everything had always been on me. And I understand that in order for that to change, I was going to have to open up to it too. I wasn't going to be able to continue to be guarded and, you know, defensive and not giving guys an opportunity. You know what I mean? Like at one point, my ex who passed away wanted me to move in with him. And I told him, I'm not going to move in with you until you get me a ring, you know? And that was just me looking for security. Well, he going and got me a ring the next day. So I said, oh, okay, I'm, you know, over my head. I didn't really mean that. I'm sorry. You know, I didn't know that you were going to go do it the next way. So I had avoided that. I had avoided this dynamic my whole life. So me, I was trying to step out on a limb and do something different.
Okay, yeah, I'm getting you. So you're doing something different. You
and
didn't
I
ask
had
him.
been taken advantage of, you know, before this point. You know, I had never had a man who was trying to manipulate me in that sense. You know, most guys don't want to live with you. You know what I mean? They want to hang out with you and then go home to their own homes. So I hadn't, you know, gone through that before. So for me, that wasn't like a red flag. I was like, you know, we feel passionately about each other. We have a long distance relationship now, and we're going to take the next step to living in the same state and in the same household.
Okay, I get it. So obviously then he moves in. What's the relationship like at that point when he moves in? Going well? Is it going bad? Like, how is it going for you at that point?
The relationship was going okay, but I did start noticing, like after the first few months, that he was really comfortable.
Okay.
You know, he kind of came in with clothing, told me that his furniture and things from his other home were in some kind of storage. But I just noticed that he was very comfortable in me kind of carrying all the load. Like when it came to the bill money, there was no leadership in it. It wasn't him coming and saying, all right, you know, what do the household bills look like? You know, what are you currently, you know, how are you doing it right now? What are you looking for me to contribute? This is what I'm trying to do. You know, it was like me always having to chase him, or we know that the bills are due on the 1st. We know how much we owe. So, you know, it's not appropriate for me to be chasing you until the 13th or 15th of the month to try to get, your part back. You know what I mean? I also noticed that disagreements that we might have that are unrelated to the financial elements of the household, it would go in that direction. So if we had some kind of disagreement, then he would want the bill money back. Or let's say he's taking me on a date, right? He'll take me on a date this evening, but then the very next day, if he's upset with me, he'll ask me to borrow the same amount of whatever he spent on the date the day before. You know what I mean? So it's like, took me some months, but I started kind of, and then he was giving me the whole, well, I just moved here, so I'm trying to get back on my feet. And I was just going with it. It wasn't until later on it dawned on me, like, well, even if you're moving to a new state, you should have some kind of savings,
Of course.
Yeah, if you know that you're moving in with a single mom, then there should be a plan there. And if you're not together, then you should wait. You should tell me, like, well, I'm gonna wait a little bit on it because I got some things in my life I want to get together first, So.
Did you establish what you expected as a plan from the very jump of Kenneth moving in? Okay.
Yes, I'm a very direct person. Sometimes a fault, but I do say what I want. I do say what I expect. I was always very upfront with him. So it was never,
So you let him know that, you know what, when you come in here, you paying 50-50. You know what I mean? These are my standards. I want to be treated right. I want to be taken out. Not necessarily have to be taken out, but you know what I mean? Like, you let him know from the jump, these are the A, B, C, D, and E standards and values that you have when he's going to be moving in.
Oh, without a doubt. I even had conversations with him, intimate conversations about my past and about my feelings of abandonment in terms of, having to raise my son by myself and,
of course,
and all of that. So yeah, I was very clear and about, what I wanted and what I was looking forward to, because if not for that, why do I have somebody living in my house? I'm doing it all by myself anyway. So I was very, very clear with him. And I was clear with him too, that even the 50-50 thing, that I wasn't looking forward to a final future of going 50-50 either. I told him, like, right now I would like to go 50-50, but my hope is that in your mind that you would be looking forward to being able to provide for your family. So if you don't have it right now, that's okay. We're going to, break it down. We're going to make it work how it works. But for me, my goal is for his goal to be, hey, you know what I mean? This is what I'm working towards. But I think for him, it was a lot of like comfort, and when I told him, like, I feel alone in this, the responses were, well, my mom raised 3 boys on her own and she did it without complaining. And so it's like, she probably did complain. She probably just didn't complain to you guys because you're her children, but I'm pretty sure that she had girlfriends or, sisters, or somebody was hearing some complaining going on about raising kids on your own, because it's not easy. But so there just was a lot of comfortability in there that I started noticing, that I was like, okay, this is going to be more stressful than it is going to be like partnership or helpful. He wasn't really open or honest either in terms of like what he earns, or, he was always very curious about my earnings, what I had going on. He would do his own investigations. He was going to know that. But when it came to what he's earning or what he's bringing in, I've never known. There's never been a day when I've known how much he makes or what he's bringing in. And I don't really care, because for me, it's not about what you earn. It's about what are you contributing?
Of course.
You know what I mean? You might make 10 times more money than me. That's great, right? But for me, how is that showing up and reflecting in our household? Are you now earning more where you're saying, hey, baby, I'm earning more, so I want to take, this off of you? And so for him, the 50-50 was about more of like the mortgage or the rent. The 50-50 for him wasn't all about utilities. It wasn't all about, my vehicle that you're,
using and commandeering.
The maintenance of that. There's insurance. There's a lot of different things that go into a household other than the rent, if that makes sense.
So when did you first notice that there was financial irresponsibility? When did you first notice? When did it appear to you?
Within the first 6 months. Within the first 6 months, because I would say the first 3 months were, you know, him kind of being comfortable and me trying to figure out what he has going on. And then 3 months after that, the next 3 months was me kind of more confronting that, calling it out, you know, saying, hey, you need to be open with me. You need to share with me. And then it turned into like, oh, well, when I moved here, I did have a bunch of savings, but I went to the casino and I had an unfortunate incident at the casino. So within the first 6 months, I saw that I was going to be needing to at least separate like our finances or not be under the same household. Like 6 months into it, I was encouraging him to like get his own place somewhere in the area, and maybe we can continue to get to know each other and we continue to grow. But he's got to grow as an individual first. Like I was like, you got to show me that you can do it, you know. And for him, that just was a waste. He was like, why would I get my own place? Why would I pay my own bills when we can just do it together? Like in his mind, it was always like, if we're not going to do this, then I'm just going to go back to Louisiana, because otherwise it doesn't make sense for me. And in fairness, maybe it doesn't, you know. But I just felt conflicted, because it was like, on one end, you told me that you were moving to Georgia anyway. Yeah. And then on the other end, you're telling me you moved for me. So then that comes with pressure on my end to be a little bit more flexible or understanding of his circumstances, if he's saying that he uprooted himself for me, you know.
Wow. Okay. So the first like 3 to 6 months, it's laden with the issues already. So I'm going to ask the question. I'm sure you answer. At the point of like when you're now seeing the financial irresponsibility, did you think to get out of this relationship? Did you try to get out of the relationship and it didn't happen? What was happening there?
So I wanted to get out, but again, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I'm a woman. I have feelings. After 6 months of living in the same household as somebody, which I had never done, regardless of whether we were, you know, having good times, bad times, like a bond was being formed there. Okay. And so at the 6 month mark, I was inclined to try to leave the relationship. And so at that point, he got into the mode of what looked to me like he was starting to be more honest. It was like, okay, well, let me open up. You know what? I'm not the best person to handle money, you know, but I can admit that, and maybe you can help me with that. So then it became into a negotiation of like, okay, when he gets paid, he's going to give me his paycheck. I'll make sure that, you know, his part of the bills are paid or whatever. I'll give you back the money. You know, let's try to fix your credit together. You show me what you got going on, because I'm somebody who's really, for the last 5 years, I've been obsessed with personal credit, understanding it, finance and real estate, and like just. My parents taught me that my whole life. And I think because they wanted me to learn it, I was rebelling from them. But in the last 5 years, I've been really, really vocal about wanting to help the community. I help tons of people fix their credit for free, for no money. We just sit down together. We look at your situation. And so for me, I was frustrated that I'm able to, and doing this for other people, but then you're not letting me in. So at the 6 month mark, it was like, okay, I'll let you in, you know, I'll show you my credit. I'll give you a check and you can handle this. You do this. So then for the next 6 months, it was like more of, okay, we're going to get into a relationship where I'm going to guide you through certain aspects. You know, he's still a man. He helped me change my oil on my car if I need it. If I have a flat tire, he's going to come and change it. You know, there's things he definitely brought to the table. I never want to make it seem like he brought nothing to the table. You know, he did. There was things he brought to the table, but it was like, okay, maybe I'm going to do what my Asia said. Maybe I'm going to try to guide him in these areas where we can work together, because I need guidance too. I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe we can figure this out together. And at that time I spoke with my mom, and my mom said, okay, well, you know, everybody's not a good money manager, but if he is willing to say that he's going to let you be the CFO and make sure. Some marriages work like that. That's what my mom told me. You know, every marriage doesn't consist of, you know, the guy. No, she said, as long as he's willing to listen, as long as you guys can grow and work together, people aren't perfect. And so at that moment, I wanted to give him a chance still, because I had the other relationships that I had with men were way more established than he was, but they were also cheaters, you know? So for me, I was like, you know, this guy is not cheating on me. He's going to work. He's coming home. You know, he just isn't the best money manager. And he seems like he has a guard up in terms of allowing me to help him navigate some, you know. So he was like, I'm gonna let you in. So then I spent the next 6 months trying to, you know, trying to fight my way in, or just trying to make that happen, which brings us to a year. I know it sounds like, oh, a whole year, but you'd be surprised how quickly time goes by when you're in a relationship, you know.
So at what point did you feel like you wanted to get out for you? At what point did you feel like, you know what? I need to get out.
At that year mark. At that year mark, yeah, I noticed, like, I started noticing like alarming things. I started noticing that
Such as?
He would do odd things around the house. Like, I would find him doing weird things. And it's funny because we actually talked about one of them with Dr. Nicole. It didn't air. They didn't play it, but he would do odd things like take pictures of me or videos of me when I'm no makeup, you know, my hair isn't done. And at first he was kind of disguising it as like, I love you, I'm obsessed with you, you're so beautiful, you know, I wanna, and you know, I'm like, no, my hair isn't done. Like, I have a do-rag on. Like, what are you doing? No, you look adorable, you look great to me, you know. And so I'm just thinking, oh, you know, this guy is just like, he's so in love with me, you know what I mean? Which is different than the dynamic that I've had with other guys, you know. They're not following me around, you know, with a camera. They're not, you know, he'll take a picture of me while I'm sleeping looking crazy. And I'd say to him, why do you do that? And he'd say, you just look so beautiful while you're sleeping. You know, I can't help myself. And so at first it seemed innocent. But then it was like when I would bring up conversations of, you know, maybe we're not a good fit, maybe we should go our separate ways, it would be like, oh, okay, because you think you're better than me? Oh, but we're going to show the world that you're not. It's like, what do you mean? And then I would see that he would be like filing certain pictures and like categories in his phone and just doing very weird things that kind of made me feel like, oh, this person is trying to violate my privacy, like in weird stuff, Coach. Like, he would take pictures of dirty laundry, the weirdest things. Like, it was, and then that's when I started realizing, like, wait a minute, this guy doesn't love me. He's not. This isn't, you know, healthy adoration in a relationship. You know, this is obsession. This is like not healthy. And so at that point, I knew that I wanted to get out, but he was also letting me know, like, it's not going to be easy. You're not just going to leave me. That's what he would say. You know, I moved here to be with you. You're not just going to leave me high and dry. So it's like, okay, now I've got to tread lightly. And I don't know what else you have, you know, on me or what you're planning, because you've been planning all this stuff and what seems to be good times. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like we're fighting and then you go and do something crazy. It's like I'm falling asleep on the couch. I'm thinking I'm at home and I can be comfortable, you know, in my own home. And some of that stuff is coming back to bite me now. Like, he has a whole YouTube channel that he's created that's dedicated to, you know, pictures of me, videos of me in the comfort of my own, like, private environments and stuff.
That YouTube, I've seen it. Did you have any? I know you're gonna always say, but I have to ask it. Are those videos consensual? What he posts up on the YouTube, like in terms of like him posting up the YouTube, did you guys agree to do a YouTube?
No, absolutely not. No.
Okay.
In fact,
I
have an attorney who sent him a cease and desist and told him that the channel needs to come down, and he hasn't taken it down. But he also hasn't added any new videos since the cease and desist. But he still hasn't taken the ones down. No, he does not have my permission. And if you watch the videos, in a lot of the videos, I'm covering up the camera, or I'm covering up my face, or I'm telling him, like, you know, don't record me right now. Like, it's just a bit much. And it's really as an intimidation tactic for me, because he's always let it be known that he has nude videos or pictures of me that I'm unaware of. You know, I didn't take any, I didn't provide him with any, but it's kind of like, for him, it's kind of like, oh, I'm putting up this video today. Tomorrow I'm putting up this video. And so for me, it's kind of like, you know, I'm going to keep these videos up and you need to be worried about what video is coming next.
Ooh, this is a crazy thing.
I'm going to grab a charger.
No way, you grab a charger.
It's right here.
Mm-mm-mm.
So yeah, at the 1 year mark, I started seeing some concerning things, to say the least, and realized that even if I was trying to get out of the relationship, that it probably wasn't going to serve me well to be very vocal about it to him. So.
Why do you say, okay, so after the year mark or so, you're saying that you're feeling like you want to leave the relationship. Your first attempt to leave the relationship, did you manage to actually break up and leave?
No, I spent a whole nother year with him in my home because I couldn't get him out. Like, I would try to get him out on average, probably once every 3 months. So like the first quarter, I contacted some of my family members and I was like, I don't want him here. I don't have family in Georgia, but I have one male cousin in Georgia, and I talked to him and his wife, and I told them what was going on. And they reached out to him and told him that, hey, you know, if she doesn't want there anymore, it's time to go. And he told them that this was mine and his relationship, and that I had no business even bringing other people. And he let them know that, like, this is my house. I live here. If you want me out of here, y'all come and get me out. And so, of course, you know, my cousin, being my family member, was like, oh, I'll go get him out of there today, forcefully. And so then I had to bring it back down because I was like, I don't want anyone that I love to end up harmed or end up in jail behind this. That I'm going to be able to sleep with myself, you know. And so we went through that. And then in the next quarter, 3 months, I reached out to the authorities and I had them come out. And a real nice woman police officer and guy police officer, I talked to both of them. After asking him to leave, we had a situation that was argumentative. It was not physical or anything, but I wanted him gone. And so I said, well, I'll get you out of here myself. And I called the police. And when they got there, they informed me that if he had been there longer than 2 weeks, that this was his residence and that I was going to need to file a 30-day eviction notice. Well, he's standing right there while they're saying it to him, you know. So that certainly doesn't make me feel comfortable to go and start an eviction process on somebody who still lives with me every day, somebody who has not physically, you know, if I told the police he hit me, they're taking him away that day. But that's not the truth. He didn't, you know. And so from the way they see it, they're like, well, you know, unless something happened, this is not a matter for us. This is a civil matter. And you're just, and I was like, even though the place is mine and the furniture is mine and the lease is mine, all the bills are, I'm like, no, if he's got clothes here and he's been here for 2 weeks, that's the process. So that was another year. So at that, now we're at a 1.5 year mark. And so for me, I said, okay, cool. Well, I've got 6 months until my lease is up where I am now. And so then I told him, I said, you know, at the end of this lease, I'm getting ready to go buy a property. And unless you plan on contributing in some major way, you know, unless you're going to go get some help, like, you can't come with me. And so those 6 months were tense, but we got through them. And so then at that point, my lease was up and I did go get a new property. I went and got a house that I bought, and me and my son moved in. On my moving day, I had friends who were there with me, coworkers who were there, male coworkers who helped me move my stuff, and they let him know that you're not coming with her. And so I moved into my home, and I was there for probably, I would say, about 3 or 4 months when he showed up. He knows where I work. He knows my schedule. We lived together for years. And so he knew that on certain days, my son would drop me off at work. And so he just, you know, waited. And then he followed me home. And it wasn't aggressive. It wasn't, you know, I want to hurt you, anything like that.
Of course.
It was, I love you. And why are you doing this to us? You know, I miss your son, you know. And then so from that point, it became, he would drive by my property. You know, he would show up. I petitioned his family to help me, his mom, his brother. There wasn't a lot that could be done. And it was at that time that he went and disparaged me to my job. He also disparaged me to my ex job, which I had a very serious situation going on with them. And he just disparaged me, like, to my jobs, and did a lot of crazy stuff. And so in my mind, I was like, okay, well, it seems like nobody can really help me. So maybe my best bet is to just be cordial with him, you know, because that was my
You befriended the
control.
abuser. Yeah.
That's where I felt like I was in control, right? When we're together, or he thinks that we could be together, he doesn't do these things, you know? So for me, I didn't want to lose my job. I didn't want to, I installed a home security system. I wasn't myself. I was on eggshells every day. It was very unnerving for me. And so at that point, I was like, okay, well, it seems like maybe I need to just be okay with him. And so that's what I did. You know, I started letting him come back around and stuff like that. And I was just praying and talking to other people. And I was like, there has to be an out, you know. And a lot of the stuff that he was doing was falling through the cracks. Like I said, trying to get him out of the house. Police can't help me. An eviction notice. I filed a restraining order on him when I went to when I bought my new house. I filed a restraining order, 2 restraining orders on him. They didn't go through because he did not have an address to be served at. I did show up to both court dates. He did not. They threw out the temporary orders after 30 days because they have to serve him. He has to be made aware of what's going on. And if he doesn't have an address, then they cannot do that. He tried to steal money from me through the bank systems, but the fraud alerts would catch it. And so because the fraud alert would catch it, no funds would actually be stolen. And so banks don't pursue charges on almost fraud, you know. Even the disparaging remarks that he made to my job, they weren't, Shorty is not a nice person. They were triple X rated videos coming of Shorty back soon. And so, and they were done from alias social media pages. The only way that he got caught was he sent an email accidentally from his actual real account to my job. And so my job called me and they were like, okay, we think we got to the bottom of where all of this is coming from. And then it was coming from him. And so they told me that they would, you know, put measures in place to make sure that he couldn't come up to the job. And so it was just a lot of this, a lot of people not believing me. It's hard for me, I think, for some people to see me as a victim because I'm outspoken. You know, it seems like I could stand it for myself. I seem like a tough lady, you know, but it takes for you to get in real space with me to see that I'm 4'10" and I weigh 90 pounds. And this is an individual who is 6'4". He weighs over 200 pounds. When he took my phone from me on that episode, he took it from me because he's bigger. There's no fight there. I reach over and I take the phone out of your hand. And I stop you from getting it back by holding you back because you're this big compared to me. So there is no, you know, there's no comparison there in that sense. But I think because people see me being outspoken and I seem like I'm sure of myself, and it's like, no, you know, she can't be a victim. But I want people to know that it's deeper than just somebody hitting you. You know what I mean? And there have been times where there have been, you know, times where I thought, oh, is he going to hit me today? You know, like the way that he moves is erratic sometimes. He likes to drink. So to me, I'm like, okay, well, when you're drinking, you're not even your normal self. So where is this going to go? So there was a lot of intimidation in all different kind of ways, just for my brand, you know, for my kid. Is like every day I'm trying to figure out how do I, you know, get out of this. It seemed like nobody could help me. Authorities can't help me. The banks can't help me. My friends can't help me. Who's going to help me? And like I said, it would be different if he was actually physically abusing me. Then that's a no-brainer. If he's physically abusing me, 10 people will come to my rescue, you know. But this kind of abuse is very much psychological, and it's tough for people to believe that someone who carries on like myself could be psychologically abused, you know.
Yeah, I'm definitely hearing you on that one. Sorry, I was taking it all in, so my face was just kind of soaking in what you were saying. And I think I was trying to listen. So when you moved to the new place, did you say he was kind of filtering himself back into your life again once more?
Yeah, he was, because at this point, you know where I live, you know, and he just would show up. So his mom couldn't help me. His brother, at one point, his brother, who was
What happened there?
about
Because
me on the show.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, I'll help you. He said, oh, I'll tell him to never show up to your house ever again, and he'll listen. He called him on three-way with me and told me, bro, it's not worth it. He told him, it's not worth it. If she don't want you there, she don't want you there. She's calling the police. I called the police. His mom was like, please don't call the police, because in the police state that we live in, I don't want them to shoot my son, you know? And so his brother went off on him and was like, what are you doing? And 1 hour later, he was back at my house. So yes, at that point, I did decide, like, okay, I'm going to let him back in, and I'm going to give him the appearance that we're okay and we're cool, because I can't go through this anymore. Like, I can't. And the only way to calm him down is to make him think that there's a hope of us, you know, having something. And hence the show. So when that opportunity came up, I was like, this is perfect. Because I was sure that at the end of this process, either he was going to, of his own accord, realize that this isn't a good fit and leave me alone, or on the last day of filming, I'm going to have this production crew help me get his stuff out. Because at this point, I live in a high-rise condo. So this is not my other house that's on a ground level that you can just show up to. So in my mind, I said, if I can get him out of my condo, this is my clean break, because you can't get past my concierge downstairs. So, and I'm at a point where my work schedule and all of these things are not, they're unknown to him. So I just feel like, you know, in a better space. And I was really hoping that the counseling would help him, because I don't want to be at odds with him. I don't. Like, I had a lot of love for Kenneth. I saw a lot of potential for me and him throughout our relationship, whether it was false potential or I was gaslighting myself. I did. I genuinely cared about him. I genuinely cared about his daughter. So I didn't want it to be like this. But at the same time, I love me first and more. And I love my son more too. So you're not going to make me miserable forever. And like I said, my situation was just so layered and so complicated. And I really tried a million different avenues to get out on my own. And it just, I've never been so challenged in my life. And like I said to you, my past relationships were so different. My past relationships were like, if I don't want to be with the guy anymore, we break up. Yeah, he's going to call me for a week, baby, give me another chance, you know. But after that, he's going to find somebody else and move on. So I'd never experienced anything like this before.
Doing if the show had not taken you on, what would have been your plan? Because the show was the piece de resistance. It was the you know, the thing that was going to sell it all. So what would have happened if the show didn't take you on? Would have been.
I don't know. I don't know, because like I told you, the first year in with him, I knew I wanted out. And so that second year was me trying different avenues of getting out. So to be honest with you, I don't know. I don't even want to, you know, waste too much time on the what ifs, because I spent so much time feeling hopeless, of like, there's nothing that can be done. I mean, there's days I cried to my friends. I was like, he's never going away. Like, it's been too long. You know what I mean? Like I said, a guy might try to beg you back for a week. He might try to beg you back for a month, you know, but there were many of days that I cried, and I prayed. You know, I don't even think that the show was a coincidence. I think that, you know, I was in prayer. I was trying to be diligent. I was trying to be smart. And so I don't know. I really don't know what I would have done, to be honest with you.
Okay, that's fair enough. So talk to us maybe some of these scenes that we can kind of just dive into, because I mean, you know, it was tight. So we, like you said, you mentioned about the phone situation. I think that's when I was a bit like, whoa. So when you had the phone situation, and then had the bank statements, bank cards, details, and everything like that, myself and Crystal were talking about it, and we called it the big A, you know, abuse. But I mean, talk to us about that situation in the car. What was happening for you at that point?
So I think some people, I want to clear some of it up, because I saw some questions online of stuff that people didn't understand. First, they didn't understand how long he had my phone. So in filming, you know, we do our filming. I go on my date with Hollywood's first day to come back home. Once the cameras and the crew are gone, he wants to know, are you going on another date with him? I don't know. And so, like I said, this was the first time that me and him, I had been on a date with someone, or he had been on a date with someone. And even if you're in a healthy relationship, it's a lot to deal with. And so I think he just immediately went into that mode of like, oh, Hollywood's about to take my girl. She thinks this is sweet. And so it started out, I thought, of him trying to take my phone to see if me and Hollywood had exchanged phone numbers or if we had any kind of communication. So at first I kind of laughed at it a little bit. I was like, I didn't give Hollywood my number. What are you talking about? Take my phone. But then once he goes in the room and he locks the door, it's like 5 minutes goes by, 10 minutes goes by. Well, what are you doing with my phone? I just wasn't able to get my phone back at all. The door was locked. That's that. I'm done. So he's in there for hours. Well, I got tired of just sitting out here by myself with no phone. So I was upset. I ended up leaving. So I left. I just left my own home and I left him to be here. And so we didn't see each other again until the next day of filming, which at that point, he still had my phone. So it's a new day. And we meet each other on set. And when we're on set, we're not allowed to have our phones. So we get there. He hands me mine. I tell the producers, they're aware of what's going on. I called them that morning and I told them that he still has my phone and I'm not doing anything until I get my phone back. So they had him give me my phone and then I put my phone in the car, put it in the side of the door, shut the door. We went into film. So we filmed all day. At the end of filming, we come back in, we get in the car. He hands me my phone because now he's on the driver's side. So he hands me my phone. This is the first time that I've had my phone since the previous night. So when I'm looking through it, I see some messages that have been emails that have been sent from me to him. So I said, I didn't send him any emails. So I go on the emails and I see that he's sent himself a paycheck stub of mine. And it was like a picture of a paycheck stub that I had in my phone and also a picture of the front and back of my bank card, which was also in my phone that I had shared with my son so that he could buy an airline ticket. I sent him a picture. So he went through all the threads. So the picture of the bank card was not even in my gallery of photos. It was in a thread conversation between me and my son. And so he sent himself a picture of the front and back of my bank card and also a picture of my paycheck. So what that reads to me is you want to know how much money I have or make, and then you want to have access to it by having the front and back of my bank card. And I discovered that while we were in the car, the camera was rolling and it was a very intense moment. And I just wanted to know why. Like, why? And more importantly, I wanted to ensure that that had been deleted from his phone. And like I said, because it was sent in an email, I need to see you pull up the email. I need to see you delete the email, and I need to see you delete the trash, and I need to see you empty the trash. So I need to see all of that. And so again, it was kind of like, I'm bigger than you. You're not gonna make me do anything. So that's when we see him exit the vehicle. And it took for producers to come in and mediate the situation and make him give me back his phone. And the producers sat with me while I made sure that I deleted all files that were not pertaining to him, that were mine, that he shouldn't have.
So at this point, producers can see that your phone has been taken and has been held captive and kidnapped your phone. Is there a conversation that's had about the fact this is an abusive move?
Oh yeah, absolutely. For me, I'm telling them I'm not okay with this. This is not okay. And I'm new to reality TV. And
Of course.
And for me, I'm like, this is my crazy situation. These people didn't put me in the situation. They're trying to make a show. So they knew me and Ken had issues. We had a lengthy audition process with lots of different checks, happen. So, but yeah, I let them know that what was going on and how unhappy I was. But for me, they brought me his phone and they, assisted me in deleting the files. And so for me at that point, I was just grateful to have them there. I was grateful to have them there and grateful that there was somebody that he, respected or took seriously enough to enforce that, like this isn't okay.
Ooh, okay. That's an interesting. Okay, so then you also had some other scenes with Kenneth, which later on, I think it was probably towards the end, the conversation where you guys talk about where you're having where he's lying down, his head in your lap,
Mhm.
and you're talking about you wanted a plan and everything like that as well to get things sorted, and kind of riled up a little bit as well. At that point, where's your head at that point? Because obviously I know you're doing what you got to do, but I'm saying where's your head at that point? Because you've been doing it for a little while now. Where's your head at? What you're thinking? What's going through your mind?
Well, for me, that was the end all be all. And you guys only saw a small piece of what was edited. But part of the plan of what I was asking him was not just a financial plan. I was also asking him how he was going to step it up as a father and how he planned to include his daughter into our life and be more consistent in that. So for me, the plan that I was asking him was more than financial. I was asking him, what are you going to do on your end to mend the relationship with your daughter's mother? What are you going to do on your end to make sure that you're more active and participatory in your daughter's life? Because you're not going to Louisiana often enough. You are not communicating with her mother or working on that relationship to make her feel more comfortable for her daughter to come be with us in Georgia. From what I hear from the mom, you're not contributing financially to the daughter like you're supposed to. And so the unedited scenes are me asking him how he plans to incorporate his daughter into our family, and also what does his plan look like moving forward to become more financially stable, and also what is he going to do to get in a space where he feels like he wants to contribute more. Because like I said on the reunion, I didn't come out and say Kenneth is broke. He sits at home all day and plays video games. What I said is that he's not taking leadership. He's not stepping it up. He's not owning this. It's more of a I'm landlord and I've got to stalk you down. If you're mad at me, you're going to try to take the money back. You're going to deal with your daughter when you feel it. You're going to ask me to go out on a date, and then when the tab comes, you're going to slide it to me. These are all things that as a woman, I'm not feeling good. I'm not feeling comfortable. I'm not feeling secure. So my question for him was, what is your plan? Obviously, you're not there now. That's all right. I'm a firm believer in plans. If you give me a plan that in my mind sounds logical, I'm going to say, nah, that sounds like it's full of shit, right? Or I'm going to say, that sounds feasible. But at least if you give me a plan, I can be your accountability partner. So if you say, my plan is that I'm going to apply for my general contractor's license, right? The next 3 months, I'm going to save up money. I'm going to go through the application process, and I'm going to try to get that license, right? Or my plan is that, you know what, right now I don't want to be a business owner. So I know where I'm working right now. I'm not making enough. I'm going to try to get a new job that pays more. Or, you know what, Shorty, I'm actually more financially stable than you think, but I've just been holding out and not really taking leadership of it. But from this point, I see that I need to, so I will. Let me be transparent. This is how much I make. This is how much I have. This is how much I save. This is what I'm planning to do. This is how I want to step up in this capacity. This is what I'm going to do in terms of my daughter's mother. We know he can't control her, but you can control you. So what is your plan moving forward to take more leadership of your role of the man in this family and in this relationship? And that's what I wanted to hear. Anything. It could have been anything, And at the end of the day, as we all saw, he had nothing. What he had is, I'm going to do it. I need you to believe in me. And as I know, after years of not proving what you're saying you're going to do, it's hard for me to put blind faith into that you're going to figure it out, because we're partners. So you don't even necessarily have to figure it out by yourself. You could tell me what you're thinking, and I can give my input. I could tell you what I'm thinking, and you give me your input.
Mm.
It's partnership.
I'm hearing that. The scene where you're in your house and Kenneth is, I said he was pacing up and down with a drink and chicken wing, and I knew that it was serious. And I mean, I genuinely meant that. Like when I saw him pacing up and down, and then the jabs that he was kind of throwing without you saying anything. I want you to just give us a bit of your perspective, how you saw that particular scene, because I was looking at it now and I was like, yeah, she ain't saying nothing. Maybe she doesn't want to start nothing and she can see where he's going. But I want to get your perspective in terms of if you can run us the play, what it was going through your mind, how you were seeing what was happening and unfolding. Let me know.
One thing about me is I try to carry myself in a mature way at all times. My delivery might not be the most pleasant. Like I said, I'm direct, I'm blunt, I say how I feel. That's me, right? But one thing I'm not is, I'm not gonna cuss you out. I'm not gonna turn up. I'm not gonna be ghetto. I'm not gonna escalate things. And at that point, for me, there was absolutely no reason to. At that point, for me, I had already decided that we're done. We're breaking up. And so I understood that just because I want an amicable breakup doesn't mean that he's ready to give me one. And somebody who isn't always honest in his expression. He's a denier. So he wants to always make it seem like we're doing great, we're doing great, we're doing great. So when he does say negative things to me, it's going to be while angry. Now I'm mad, so now I'm really going to tell you how I feel. Today I'm mad, so I'm going to tell you that I'm not your flavor, that you're not my flavor. But for me, I already knew that I wasn't his flavor because prior to me, he didn't date Black women. His daughter's mom is Asian. He's dated white women, Hispanic women, or whatever. But as far as him being with a Black woman, he openly told me that the last time he had a Black girlfriend was probably in high school when he was like 15, 16 years old, something like that. So as far as me not being his flavor in terms of like my race, I already knew that, So I just find it petty that you're saying it now while you're mad. And also the question is, if I'm not your flavor, then why have you been here all this time? And for me, that just fuels my suspicion of that you're trying to use me. You know what I mean? Like you don't even like me, but you're here. So at that point, I was like, there's no reason for me to argue with him. I wanted him to be able to get everything out of how he felt. It wasn't a first for him to insult me. You know what I mean? He said not nice things to me plenty of times. So for me, I was seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I said, let me let him get everything off his chest. And I know these people are going to help me get his stuff out of my house. And that's that. Like, what's arguing means that I still care, that I want more, that I'm trying to get my point across. I've been getting my point. I've been saying how I feel for 3 years. I said how I felt the entire season. I wouldn't have had to say it a million times if I would have just been heard the first time. Give me an answer for what I'm saying. I'm telling you how I feel. You don't say anything. I'm telling Dr. Nicole how I feel. She's not giving me direct feedback. The feedback that I felt like I was getting from Dr. Nicole was just, well, if you're not happy, leave. You know what I mean? Like that's the sentiment that I got from her over and over was like, well, sounds like sounds like you don't want to be here. So leave. Right. And so it's like, I'm not getting feedback. Do I know I got issues? Absolutely. Do I think I'm perfect? Hell no. I need help too, right? So if I'm saying, hey, this is how I feel, tell me something. Say something. You know what I mean? Like, say something, because if I'm the only one saying how I feel, then it's like I look negative and I look mean and but nobody's giving me anything to work with. So week after week, I'm saying the same things, which can come across as like bullying or mean, but I'm going to say the same thing until I get some kind of dialogue or some kind of resolution there.
I hear you on this. Dr. Nicole, I mean, did you manage okay, no, hold on. Did you manage to have a one-to-one sit down with Dr. Nicole?
No, I did not.
So
I asked for a one-on-one with Dr. Nicole throughout the season. I was told everyone would get one. I watched other people get one-on-ones, multiple one-on-ones. I did have a one-on-one with Dr. Nicole with Kenneth. So it was me and him and her. It was after the taking my phone incident. So the one-on-one that we had was, talking about boundaries, and I was telling her that he had taken pictures of me while I was sleeping again within that week. So that's what that was about. That didn't get aired. I don't remember like all the details of it, but we did have like a couples one-on-one with Dr. Nicole. I did not have one. I did not have, it didn't air, but we did have one. I did not have a solo one-on-one. Dr. Nicole did offer me a solo one-on-one at the very end when me and him had broken up. But at that point I was already upset, and I just felt dismissed. You know what I mean? Facts aren't feelings, but like my feeling was, oh, the couple that broke up the season before, they were heard, they were validated. She gave them hugs. She kind of wished them well, on their journeys, and didn't really necessarily, villainize any one particular person. Where with me and Kenneth, it was like, okay, well, you guys are done. You're at the end of the road. Bye, And in that moment, I was telling her, I said, we are broke up, but he's been calling me every single day. Can you, Dr. Nicole, as a counselor, tell him that we are broken up? It doesn't serve either one of us for him to continue calling me. And her advice to me was, don't answer. Just because he's calling doesn't mean that you have to answer. And so that was her response. I told her that he called me bitches, hoes, like that wasn't aired. She told me that was a toxic cycle that he and I set up together. And that if we didn't eliminate that, then we were going to carry it into our next relationships, which is a fact. She's absolutely right. And so then it was at that point that she told us that we were at the end of our journey and we were free to go, and that if we wanted a one-on-one, we could. So by that time, I definitely felt like not heard, not validated, dismissed. We're already done. We're broken up. We're going our separate ways. So what is, you know what I mean? To me, the one-on-one, where I thought like you express to her what's going on with you and your partner without your partner being right there to babysit you, so you can have a one-on-one with her, and then she can take that and apply it throughout the season of how to help us. Like by that time, I was over it.
Why do you think that you never got a one-to-one?
I don't know, and I don't really even want to speculate, to be honest with you. I don't know. I know that there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to production and shows and stuff like that. So I'm not sure. All I know is that I didn't, and I was offered one at the very end.
Okay. I'll definitely hear that. Okay. So obviously when at the end when you finally obviously managed to get him out, he's packed his stuff, you helped him with even a suitcase to leave the house and stuff. And then you guys have to come for that last bit with Dr. Nicole and the rest of the group as well. I think you mentioned about you wanted to check in, see if he was still in the building as well.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us a little bit about that end scene that we see of you guys. What was that like?
It was really, I don't even know what word I want to use. It was just unpleasant, with the way the last scene, you guys saw how it was, cartwheeling and doing all these things. Some people kind of thought it was funny and it was entertaining. I get it. They're at home, they're watching it, he's clowning around. For me, it was not funny. For me, it was embarrassing. It's one thing to criticize me and tell me that I don't cook enough or I don't clean enough, or, some type of criticism that's solution based. You don't do this enough. I wish you would do this. Or, even if it's, you overtalk me or you think you know everything, you don't give me a chance to give me something I can work with. Right. You call me ugly. I don't know what to do about that. You tell me that I'm weak. How do I work on that? You call me an MFer. I don't know what to do with that. So it was like, the way that things went down, I was very embarrassed. I had a whole production crew in my house that was watching that go down. I did ask them multiple times to intervene and stop it. They did eventually. I was thankful for it. And so then right after we, within a day or two, we've got to go film this group scene. Going in, I don't know, are they going to make me sit right next to him? And they did. So it was unpleasant, and it was kind of like, so you guys broke up, you know, tell us what happened. And then it was like, once I start trying to tell you, it's like, oh, well, sounds like you guys are toxic, and, you know, this is the end of the road. So there's the door. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that he was like gone and off the premises. Absolutely. That was like my concern. And production did help with that. They did help with keeping us apart. They hired security for me at the reunion. You know, I think that they did what they could do to, you know, ensure that I was okay. I can't hear you.
Sorry, my mute was me. I mute myself. The reunion, that was he came with a manifesto. Did he read out the manifesto?
No.
He didn't read out all because the sheet looked filled.
Oh, you know what? He did. I think some people helped him with that. I'm not gonna lie. He was using words that are new vocabulary.
No.
I'm just saying.
Not
Manipulating opportunists, like I never had heard it in his vocabulary. So I think that might have been why he needed the paper too, so that he could do that. And so he could lie. To be honest with you, if you're not lying, say what you're saying, and it should be consistent. If it's a lie, you don't have to remember anything. You don't have to write it down. Say what you feel. I think for him at that point, it was like it was about keeping the lies consistent, because I think seeing himself on the show was like, 1 week he says he makes more money than me and he pays more bills than me. Then the very next week, he's stuttering over a plan on how he's going to take, you know, leadership over that dynamic. So it's like, where's the consistency? What are you saying? So I think the manifesto was about ensuring that he had a good vocabulary to use and that he was being consistent in his lies, if you ask me.
I'm hearing on this. I'm hearing that. Hearing that. But for you on the reunion, you know, he was saying that, you know, you're manipulative, such and such. Do you concur with his declarations and his statements, or do you completely disagree? What was your thoughts to some of the accusations he slung your way?
I think the narrative right now of me is that I didn't want this guy. I knew I didn't want him. I believe that I'm way above him, and I brought him on this show to humiliate him, to gain clout for myself. But that's not true, because Kenneth is in the relationship just like I am. So he knows I'm not happy. He knows he's not happy. The question is he going to admit it or not, right? He knows that he's not happy. He knows that we're very far from putting a ring on it. I was very honest with him about, I want you to go on these dates. I want you to take them seriously. I want you to give them a chance. I told him that before we did it. I told him that while we were filming. So in no way, shape, or form did I tell him, I'm madly in love with you. We've got just a few little kinks to work out, and let's go on this show, and it's probably going to result in us putting a ring on it and getting married. Like, no, that's not the case. Also knew that I was going to go on there and be honest about what my concerns were. He had a lot of criticisms of me too. I don't know why they did not air any of them. He literally said that he's not happy in the bedroom. I don't cook enough. I don't clean enough. Like, there was a lot of criticisms that were made of me that I wish that they would have aired, so that it could have been a little bit more balanced, and so that he could have felt a little bit more good about it being balanced. Because it's like, I'm ragging on him. It looks like he's just sitting there taking it. He doesn't have any criticism of me. But if you ask other cast members or other people who were there, he had plenty to say about me too. It didn't necessarily make it on air. So I refuse to believe that I am a manipulating opportunist. Kenneth doesn't have any opportunities for me. I was made aware of this show. I asked him to come on it with me. He did not, create this opportunity. He has not thus far created any big or small opportunities for me. I think that whatever opportunity he sees this show as being, I think that he was equally benefited from it, or at least had the opportunity to equally benefit from it, because it's all about what he makes it. So now that we're done, for me, Shorty's got to realize, what am I going to learn? Where am I going to grow? What am I going to do differently for different results? And he's got to do the same thing too. Neither one of us look good on the show. People tore me up and they tore him up too. So I don't think that it's a situation where, I humiliated him, and there are whole Facebook groups dedicated to hating me. It's just about, how are you going to consume that or receive it. You know what I mean? Are you going to be in agreement with these people who are talking trash about you, or are you going to take the constructive things, change them, and then realize that these are viewers on the show who don't know us, you know? So I think for him, he painted a picture of like, he was bamboozled. He knew nothing. He thought he was coming on the show to get married. That is not, it's not true. The same blunt, outspoken person that I've been on the show is the same person that I am behind the scenes. And the same thing with the show too. You know, I felt, you know what I mean? It's not a fact, but during the reunion, I kind of felt that there was a narrative of like, well, why did you even come on the show then? I came on the show because the show was about putting a ring on it or walking away. This show is not about perfect couples who got a wedding date set and we're just watching this isn't Bridezilla. You know what I mean? This is trying to see, these are couples who are on the edge. So either they could go their separate ways or they could get married. That's a big difference there, right? So I'm not buying into the narrative that like I was already an established personality down here in Georgia. I already had a great, healthy following on social media. I'm known here in the city. If you ask people about me, they know about me. I've got all kinds of situations that put me out there. People know who I am. So this is not a situation where I needed Kenneth or I needed this show. This is not a show that has season 1, season 2. You know what I mean? We're not coming on there next year. And with all due respect, this is not like a life-changing experience. You know what I mean? Where I put him down to benefit myself. You know what I mean? We both got paid to be on the show, and the fans like and hate us both equally. So I don't know where the huge manipulation or benefit was on my end. That would have to be broken down more specifically for me to understand that.
That makes sense. What would you say? Okay, so what would you say that you learned from the process?
I learned that I have got to figure out a way to get into my femininity. And I love how when we started this interview, you asked me about like my childhood and my family background and my upbringing, because I think that has a lot to do with how we love and how we deal with relationships. So I really thank you for asking me those questions, because I know that to people who don't know me, I can come off like crass or bitter or I'm guarded and, you know, like all these things. But I want people to know, like, I didn't grow up like super with a lot of affection and stuff like that, you know, and love to me looked like duty and responsibility. And so that's how it translated for me, you know. But I think I need to figure out how to do that. And it's going to be layered. You know what I mean? Some of it is going to have to do with me. It's going to have to figure out, how do I tap into that? Does that mean that I need to surround myself with other women who are more feminine? Or what does that look like? But I'm going to have to figure it out. Does it also look like me making better decisions in terms of the men that I date? I have to. Like, ultimately, I'm choosing these men. If there's red flags there and they're being ignored, I'm the one that's ignoring them. So I've got to really take full accounting for the direct consequences of my actions. In the past, I might have thought, oh, it's a red flag, I'm going to ignore it. And it seemed harmless in the past. Today, I'm seeing how harmless it is not. And I'm seeing how detrimental things can be, you know. And so I think I just was very naive in the past. It's time for me to take those naive blinders off. It's time to ask more questions and be okay with that. I'm about privacy. So it's like, if I meet a guy, I don't want to be like, you know, what do you do? How much you make? How's your relationship? Do you have kids? What about their mom? What about your mom? You know, it's like, but I'm realizing that at this age, those conversations probably need to be had earlier than later, you know. And I've got to stop ignoring red flags, and I've got to understand the consequences are tied into my actions. And I want to get into my femininity. I want to relax a little bit. I want to learn how to communicate better, just in terms of like delivery and how to say things. I learned from this show that it's not like what you say, it's how you say it. And I think at first I thought I was fine because I was like, I'm not calling him out his name. I'm not raising my voice, you know. But it's like, I've got to have a better delivery. And if I can't, then I need to let this situation go. I think with Kenneth, I was stuck because it was like, I did want to let it go and I couldn't let it go. And I'm becoming this angry person, but I think in the future it's going to be to don't ignore those red flags and just make way better decisions about who I date and do it unapologetically. I can't give a guy a chance to build with me because women are telling me, give him a chance. If I know that I don't have the patience to build with him, then I can't do it because other people are telling me he seems like a great guy and give him a chance, because ultimately that's my relationship. So I've just got to, get into my femininity. And that includes who my friends are, who I'm dating, what decisions I'm making, how I'm carrying loads, and the stories that I'm telling myself. So that's what I learned. Because there were times I watched myself and I was like, dang, you are a little bit harsh,
Yes. I mean, we spoke obviously in the DMs, and you did ask why I was being so hard, and I told the audience that, and I'll say it to you actually as well. The reason why I was being so hard is because the behaviors get learned and then they get transferred. So even though you are the victim in the scenario, the things that you're learning in that scenario often gets transferred into the next situation. And I was seeing that you're very direct. At points you was very direct, and I was like, yo, nah, like that needs to chill, like, because that's going to continue into the next relationship. Forget this one, but when the next relationship comes in, because that's the way that you fought to try and keep your peace and at least give yourself some sanity and some power, that will be the exact same way that will get into the next relationship, because that's what you've learned how to fight, and it's worked in some shape or form. It's worked a little bit. Do you know what I mean? So I was trying to get the audience to understand that it's not that I was trying to equate you and Kenneth. There's no equation between you and Kenneth. I said that from episode 2, but it was just that I was like, I'm like, if it becomes a learned behavior, the next relationship where you're actually in a more stable, healthier space, it will be the weapon that you use, and then you end up becoming the problem when that shouldn't be the case. So
Yep.
that's what I was trying to point out in that sense. But you've already kind of said that as well. And there's something also I'm intrigued by. So all the relationships you've spoken about, and as you said, there are all red flags in there and stuff, etc. But they all seem to have that common kind of theme in there. So, like in terms of ignoring of the red flags, um, and it's quite interesting because we spoke about childhood. I'm also childhood was quite similar to yours. I've ignored red flags. The last relationship I was in, I know some red flags, and I ended up in a situation. Do you know what I mean? So I do understand where you're coming from and where and how easy it is to ignore red flags. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't. I'm not trying to berate you. More of a case of I actually know that ignoring those red flags is really more about wanting to be loved and almost ignoring it so that we can, sometimes we just want to see the better in people because that's how we wish people would see us, and you kind of
Mm-hmm.
give them an extra chance. You know what I mean? So yeah, I can understand where you're kind of coming from in that regard. So yeah, please take the time out, do what you got to do. You know what I mean? Come back stronger because you're amazing. I love your energy. You're vibrant. You're energetic. You know what I mean? I'm glad nothing ever happened to you. Cause I ain't gonna lie to you. When I saw him walking with a chicken wing and the drink, I was scared. I ain't gonna lie to you. So we are appreciate the fact that you are alive. You're well, and you're unscathed physically. But I understand it takes a toll emotionally as well. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. I love your advice, and you're right, because I will carry it on because that's what I've been doing. But it was because of my peculiar circumstance, right? I've got a guy who I'm telling what I need, and then he's ignoring me. So I'm telling him again, and I'm telling him more stern and more stern. But at the end of it, it's like now I'm under the assumption that in order for people to hear me, I've got to come with a stern delivery, and that's not necessarily the case. Maybe it's the person I'm dealing with. Maybe somebody else, I could just tell them one time and they'd hear it. But it's like if I'm carrying that, like you said, I just come with a stern delivery the first time. It's like, whoa, chill out. Who are you talking to? So,
Mm.
yeah, that's why I'm trying to take as much time as I can to just really like heal and grow as a person, because I am like not who the woman I used to be, and I don't like who I am right now. And I do feel like a lot of bitterness inside, and because of my situation, so I've got to get that all the way together. So I think that your advice is great. I love it.
I appreciate it. Well, listen, Shorty, I appreciate you coming on here. I can see the audience is and in unison. I think we're 95%, 96% in unison. I think we have seen where you're coming from and what story you've presented to us is truthful. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to. I think even me, hearing your story, it just hits it even more because when you're watching a show, how it's presented, sometimes you can kind of downplay it a little bit. Do you know what I mean? But I think you just kind of even saying and kind of sharing your story in regards to what you actually went through him. I'm just glad you did well. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Me too. A lot of women, I mean, a lot of women inbox me to tell me that they were in similar situations, some that were, very serious and scary and dangerous, and others that were not, you know what I mean? But just women who were carrying more load than they felt like they needed to, and they didn't really know how to give it up, or they felt guilty, choosing self, or they felt pressured by society that they need to have a man even if that man ain't the right man for them, they need to at least be able to say, well, I got a man, so I've had so many, and I did not expect that, I really didn't expect it, but I've had so many women who have inboxed me, emailed me. The other day I was out and a woman came up to me in person at a restaurant and she held both my hands and she was like, like, you're an inspiration and thank you for showing that it's okay to like want what you want and have standards and it's okay to leave a relationship that doesn't serve you. And I just was like, I was, taken aback because I'm like, no, don't thank me. Like this wasn't easy for me either, But I saw that there were a lot of women who, believe it or not, could actually relate to my situation. So I was glad that I could be a light for them because that's the positivity. Because otherwise, it's like a lot of negativity. I mean, I got really dragged heavy. So it's important to at least there be like some kind of purpose there. Me and him didn't get to put a ring on it. So then what is the purpose? And I'm glad that I was able to resonate and connect with some of the female fans. And even the guys. Guys jumped in my DM. They were nice. They were like, baby girl, like, what are you doing?
Baby.
Because there was this narrative of like, Shorty's awful. No man is ever going to want her. Her potential suitors are watching her. But it was like, men who were handling their business and they were in, a good space, they were hitting me up like, let me know when you're, you know what I mean?
Out of the States.
Yeah. When you get rid of that and you're in a better space, like, let me know. Like there were a lot of guys who let me know, like, I hope you're learning from this, I hope you're okay. So like shout out to the people who understand that relationships are complicated and that they're layered and that we're allowed to make mistakes. It's okay if I meet a man and I think he's the one and then he's not and he if he do me dirty, that's not a reflection necessarily on me. It matters how I allow people to treat me, but because somebody does you dirty, remember that that's a reflection on them. So shout out to the people who understood that all three couples came on here. We were all our real selves. We really let it hang out. We were vulnerable. Like we let you guys in our life. So, and it's not easy. So shout out to the fans who learned from us and, who were kind and not just, off with their heads. So.
No, I appreciate it. Well, Shorty, listen, thank you so much for spending this time with us and sharing your truth. It's much appreciated as well. Audience members, thank you so much. I know the moderators were muting some of you guys. Fantastic. We love to see a good job well done. But no, honestly, it was good. It was good conversation as well, Shorty. So once again, I appreciate you. And we wish you luck going forward as well. And we look forward to seeing and hearing more of your journey along the entertainment as well. So keep firing away. All right.
Thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. We definitely need you, and you're a great interviewer. And I enjoyed my time. I was a little skeptical when I came on here, but I'm glad I did it. So thank you for everything.
No worries, man. I appreciate you, honestly. Audience members, we're going to see you again soon in about 2 minutes' time. I've got another interview to do. I'll be with DJ Milan. Okay, so we're going to get that, not tea, we're going to get that information. Okay, we're going to ask some real questions. All right. Listen, Shorty, thank you so much. Audience, we will see you again very, very soon. Little Black Book, you know what